Good morning from sunny but very, very cold Evesham. I'm here visiting my sister-in-law for her birthday, but being a knobhead. It's 7 AM and I'm about to get on my bike. I need to be back fairly early, so I'm hoping to be home by 10. But Evesham is right on the edge of the Cotswolds, area of outstanding natural beauty, so I thought whilst I'm here, take the opportunity. Because of logistical reasons, I had to have my bike with me because Rhiannon picked me up from work and I cycled to work. So I might as well take the opportunity. Only problem is I forgot my my hippie milk, as Phil Lovett would call it, so I'm going to have water on my cereal before I head off. What a knob. So morning from the road. I'm not in the Cotswolds yet, this is just Worcestershire. I've not made it to Oxfordshire yet. It's very nice. It's busy, but it's very nice. Just seen a red kite, which won't come out on the video at all, I'm sure. But I love a good red kite. I don't know if you can see, but there's a line of hills, which is the Cotswolds over there. And in a minute, I'm going to hang a right turn and go up my first climb. Not the best start to that climb if I wanted to go fast, I think. So before I continue with this video, I should apologise for the aspect ratio with the forward-facing camera. I know it's annoying being narrow. It was just an accident when I set it up, so I do apologise. And in the rear view camera, unfortunately, there'll always be a saddlebag from now on because I've got a different camera and it mounts differently. But yeah, so be it. This is my video from the Cotswolds. I've never cycled the Cotswolds before, but it was a lovely opportunity to do so on the Queen's Platinum Jubilee weekend, so I got to do this on a Thursday. What a treat. So this first climb, Larkstoke Hill, I think it was called, it's actually a Midlands climb officially because the area I'm in is right on the border of the Midlands and the southwest. It was a nice climb. It was harder than I had anticipated, actually. I did this stupid thing where I looked it up on Strava and I saw that the KOM had done it in like 5:45, and I just held in my head that it's a 5-minute climb from that. So obviously it wasn't a 5-minute climb, it took me 7 minutes, which means I went out a little bit hot, but I sort of managed to maintain a decent power on it, so I guess in many respects it's not too bad. And I don't know if you guys find this, but sometimes I find when I misjudge something like that, or don't look at power at all, that's actually when I put out my best power. Because if I have in my head, well, it's a 10-minute climb and I can do 330 watts for 10 minutes, that's what I'll do, and then inevitably I'll be a bit tired and I'll do a bit less. Whereas if I have no idea, I'll just go for it. So yeah, rambling aside, lovely climb. It's got this little dip in the middle, a little bit of flat to recover on in between the steep sections, which is great. It's hard to maintain the speed there, but in some ways, if you're riding the climb properly, you know, you can go really, really hard on the steep bit, recover a bit on the flat, and then go really hard again. And I like a climb like that presents a bit of a challenge. Okay, touch of recovery before I tackle the second half. I am gutted that deer didn't come out at all. It was nice seeing a deer in the middle of the road. So, okay, the final half kilometre or so was only 5% or less. It was a different kind of power output. This is me just getting over the final steep crest. And normally in these situations, on the steep bits, I will stand up and I will grind. And then for the final 500 metres or so, it's a case of sit down, spin, and see really how fast I can get. And these high hedges really do give a perception of speed. Like, it feels like I'm going fast there, not 23 kilometers an hour, which isn't really fast at all, is it? But still, it was a nice climb and a nice way to finish. Pretty happy with my final stats of 344 watts. That's 5.2 watts per kilo for 7 minutes. So that's good on a reproducible effort ride. Climb 1 of 5 of the big climbs. That was nice. It wasn't massive. It was steep in parts. Yeah, really pleasant climb. And the nice thing about it being so flat round here generally is you get lovely vistas. Tried to get the vista to the right of me, but there's too many trees. Sorry. So that McDonald's litter aside, it's very pretty around here. This is a nice fast descent into a village called Chipping Camden, which sounds very English, doesn't it? Over a level crossing, lovely. And here is the village of Chipping Camden. It's a very traditional Cotswolds village. It's got that lovely big manor house at the end, and then all these buildings which are like yellow stone, which apparently is the iconic design for the area. Cotswolds stone, I assume it's quarried nearby, and all the villages look like this. It's so pretty. It's so like Little England quaint. But yeah, it is really nice. And here we go. I'm at the next climb now, just after Chipping Camden, called Saintbury Climb. I didn't really know what to expect with Saintbury, but it is much more consistent. So that gives you something. So I don't know if underestimated is the right word, but it was steeper than I was expecting. Forget the hill for a minute, it was a lovely morning. Look at that sun through the trees. It was really, you know, you couldn't ask for better cycling weather. And this little like hamlet that I cycled through, with all the beautiful manicured lawns and the well-kept houses, and you know, it's mega affluent around here, and it's really how the other half live. You get to see, but it is really nice to experience, and to have such a nice day for it was brilliant for the full experience. But it gets steep now, or I certainly felt like it got steep here, which was a challenge, just because I wasn't expecting it. Sit down when the road gets wet, otherwise I'm going to get wheel spin. So this bit of road presented me with the classic Welsh predicament of, I want to stand up and power out of the saddle, but my rear wheel will slip if I do that. So, okay, 22%, I could still sit down and kind of grind that gear out, but it was hard. It was, yeah, fairly challenging, and I invested a bit too much power, actually. So sadly, that's not the top. So then you get to see these views behind me, and it's not the most picturesque climb in terms of views, because there's so much tree lining, which is nice, and it makes for a great experience to cycle it, but it doesn't have that immediate reward of, I've climbed up a hill and I can see how much I've climbed. It's a very different sort of environment around here. Not loads to see, apart from a bright red flashing saddlebag, if if that's what you're into. Just a false summit. So I edited out me doing some terrible quick maths there, where I tell the camera that that's an average of 9% for some reason. 1 kilometre, 79 metres of elevation, average of 7.9%. Very easy mental maths. Clearly not for my tired brain at the top of this hill. So I couldn't keep flicking back and forth to Climb Pro, and I couldn't quite get my head around how much of this was left. So I kept investing power and then realising it was too much too soon, but still a decent effort. You can see my head bobbing there where I'm really starting to struggle. This is towards the top now. This is a golf course on the right, I think. Very posh. So yeah, a decent effort at 323 watts. That's 4.9 watts per kilo for 9 minutes. That's okay. I'm nowhere near any of these leaderboards. There's too many cyclists around here. You have to do a really concerted effort. So coming down off that climb, this is through some estate with beautifully mown lawns. And I turned right onto, I think this is the A44, like it's a big main road, but this is called Fish Hill. I would have cycled it, but I was really worried about lorries, so I've taken this really funny little cycle path that comes down to a village called Broadway. Broadway is where I am now, and my brother-in-law Matt says it's the poshest place on earth. It's like super wealthy, and as you can see, they've got all this bunting out for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. That doesn't necessarily mean they're wealthy, but you know, well-to-do towns, that's the sort of thing you'd expect to see. It was quite a nice environment, or atmosphere in a way, with this big town gathering in the middle here, but having stewards and stuff was weird. Like, they were taking this way too seriously. It's the Platinum Jubilee. town though, with all these little thatched roof houses and like well-maintained topiaries and stuff. So I'm coming up to climb number 3, which is called Snowshill climb. Again, it's similar to the others. It's about 2 kilometers and around 8%, I think it was 7.7%. The road surface here was crap.
Road surface is improved.
So I crossed the county boundary and the road surface improved, and you'll often find that that's the case because road maintenance is like each council's responsibility. So when you cross a county boundary, it might be that you cross into a council area that has more money for the road budget or less money for the road budget, and the road surface changes. Anyway, that was very boring, wasn't it? God, that was very Alan Partridge. Sorry. This was probably my least favourite climb of the day. There's nothing wrong with it. It was just quite busy because there's stuff to see at the top for people in cars, I guess. And there was nothing really of note on it. It was just fairly consistent. Not a lot to look at. But here we are near the top in the village or hamlet of Snowshill. And you hang this left and you have to do the steepest bit of the climb. And this is pretty far in. This is like 1.6 km in. And then you go up this steep little kicker. It was the only real bit of interest on this hill, and it was nice. I fear maybe I was getting a bit grumpy by this point, because that's what happens when I go out and push myself. I get grumpy Nick, but it's a nice view behind, isn't it? It's not too bad after all. So yeah, a decent effort overall. 334 watts. I don't know what that is. 5.1 watts per kilo, yeah, and 722 again. Nothing remarkable, but glad I can repeat it.
Climb 3 of 5 done. Just to turn around and come back up it. I couldn't get it in any other way.
So in case you couldn't hear that anecdote, it was just saying that I went down this climb just to come straight back up it, because it's the only way I could fit it in. And actually it was a really fun descent, so it was worth doing. I don't really mind that I had to do that in hindsight, but it felt a bit weird at the time.
So 3 km, 5%. My least favourite sort of climb.
So actually it's only 2.6 km, around 5%, but it's still very much a like seated effort. It's a sit down and spin your legs sort of thing. This is the climb I was expecting the least of, if I'm honest, because it's kind of a main road. I know it doesn't look busy, but it is the main route between 2 areas and not the sort of road I would normally ride given the choice. The surface was quite grippy. It was smooth enough, but if you've never ridden British roads, they have this almost unique grippiness that adds a lot of friction because it's so often wet and cold here. But actually, the views were much better than I was expecting. They were better than some of the other climbs, and it was quite nice to do a consistently sort of 4 to 8% climb that snakes up through a forest, especially on a morning like this where a bit of shade in the trees is just on the chilly side, but then you get that sun coming through and warming you up. It was yeah, it was quite pleasant, quite idyllic. I'd actually seen some cyclists coming up this as I descended, and in my very arrogant head, as I often do, I thought I am going to chase them down, but I'm not as good a cyclist as I used to be, so I didn't see them again, obviously. Need to get over myself, really. But it was a nice sort of carrot to chase on a sort of climb that otherwise I would tend to kind of stuff up. If I'm honest, I would tend to mess up that sort of climb normally. So here we are, just coming to the top, and the road surface gets even worse again. It gets pretty horrible. I kind of wish I'd turned off sooner. There was one earlier turn than I took, and I rode along this for a bit too long. But still, it was a good effort. 322 watts. Pretty happy with that for, what have I done? 722. Again, it's reproducibility that I'm quite content with.
So, in the UK, the county of Kent, down in the southeast, is known as the Garden of England because of all of the vegetable crops it grows. But actually, the Cotswolds here in kind of the West Mids to the southwest is very similar terms of crop output, and it just means there's miles and miles of fields like this with nice, relatively quiet roads to cycle on. I've not been overly impressed with the drivers, if I'm honest, but oh, here's a flex, no hands uphill. Not one I can continue.
So now I'm descending into Winchcombe, which is a lovely little town, and this descent was fantastic. Got some proper speed up, and I mean, like, there was a bit where I was freewheeling and I hit 75 kph. I had to brake because I just wasn't expecting to go that fast. Winchcombe is a beautiful little town. I don't know if you saw the pie shop behind me there, but I really wanted to stop for a pie, and the coffee smelled brilliant as well. But I didn't really have time, unfortunately. But I really could have gone for a sausage roll and an Americano or something from there. Look at this town. It's got really old history, like pre-Roman, I think, and a lot of the buildings look very old and picturesque, and it's still like a lively high street, which is great. There's loads of shops selling all sorts of interesting stuff. And that brings me on to my final climb of the day, Sudeley Hill. I don't know how if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Maybe it should be Sudeley Hill, who knows. Anyway, I was a little bit annoyed on Sudeley Hill because my Garmin didn't behave itself and didn't tell me where the climb started, so I didn't really know when to power down, but that's what riding used to be like all the time, isn't it? So I don't know what I've got to whinge about. But it was a nice hill with a nice start from Winchcombe. I'm glad it existed, so I got to go down into Winchcombe and see it, because I wouldn't have done that otherwise. I think it's the classic issue that I basically did a U-turn, so I went down into Winchcombe, turned around and came straight back up the same hill. It confuses the Garmins, and I know it does, and I still get annoyed every time it does it. Anyway, I am on the hill now, for sure, which is nice. It was an interesting start, relatively flat. I didn't really know exactly how much power to put down, because I didn't have the stats presented to me for kind of how long it was or how steep it was or anything. And this was a particularly busy road because there's a castle. I don't know if I put in any images actually of Sudeley Castle that you see along this road, so it'll be a treat for me if we find them in there as well. And then it suddenly gets steep. So coming up to here, I don't know why this was a surprise to me, because I'd literally just descended this climb, and this is where I was saying there was that bit where I accidentally rolled up to 75 kilometers an hour without pedaling and had to brake just because I wasn't trying to do anything too fast today on roads I don't know. I hope that rear view helps you see, you know, quite how steep it did get, and also look at that dairy farm. I love seeing a dairy farm. So yeah, the view behind this one was actually really nice. Again, this is kind of the very edge of the Cotswolds, if I understand it correctly. So you can see out to the plains behind you as you climb into this ridge of highland, the Cotswolds area of outstanding natural beauty. 29% seems a little severe, but then I am going 4 kilometers an hour, so yeah, that sounds plausible. It did get steep here. And I was losing mental battles because I didn't know how long it was. So you can see there's no excuse for me not doing like 380 to 400 on a segment this steep. I should be putting the power down so that I can get over it. You can see behind again the gradient as that car goes past. It is properly steep. And I should say at this point now, it's a little bit later in the day. I think it's like 10 o'clock-ish, and that sun's starting to get hot. And I'd worn quite a lot of clothes because it was so cold in the morning. But I was dripping sweat down down onto myself at this point. And I really... actually normally perform okay in the heat, but I was really feeling it for some reason. Probably the lack of water that I'd taken with me. So the crest is not far away now. Road surface gets a bit crap as you come up to the crest, and I've not ridden this final bit of the climb, but I was trying to use my Garmin's navigation function. It was telling me that I was turning left in, I think it was 0.3k, and I thought, well, that must be the end of the climb. So I need to dig in for this other 0.3k, but I really was struggling. Lovely view behind of very standard England green rolling hills. Not sure why I've given you this rear view, I guess just to show that it was still steep even towards the top, but never mind. All things considered, not a bad effort. 308 watts for 10 minutes. So yeah, that's sub-threshold, but it's not too bad considering how far into the ride I was. I should be happy with that. This is my final push for the top, or what I believe to be the top, and I don't actually know, I'm just hoping for the best. I do think it is the top though. I think I got that right. I think I got that push right. My power's out of sync again slightly, but the grade should be in sync, which is a pain. That's all 5 climbs done. Last home breakfast. I hope I haven't upset anyone. Well-styled gated road, which I nearly rode into. There are sheep everywhere. Hello, sheep. Hello, you're okay. Hello, you're okay. So other than the sheep and the gates that nearly killed me, it was a cracking little descent that. Very nice views, straight down off the ridgeline, and then I'm basically riding the flat roads around the Cotswolds just to get home, and I just put my head down, did a bit of tempo. Here's another reminder why people don't use cycle paths. So yeah, this cycle path was absolutely crap. Shared pedestrian cycle path is essentially a pavement with paint on. Vans parked over it, loads of times to give way. I should have taken my chances on the A46. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. Look at this. These Open Ridge guys told me that they'd parked on the pavement because they didn't want to block the road. Well, cheers for that. Don't mind blocking the cycle path, but don't block the road. Fantastic. So this is now the roll into Evesham, and on the left of me is the River Avon. That is not the Avon that goes through Bristol, that is Shakespeare's Avon. It's absolutely lovely, and my camera doesn't catch it at all. It's a great bit of road to just cycle along the river, and you can see the local rowing club out, and yeah, it's a very nice atmosphere. There's a cracking bridge over this river in about 200 metres, and I really did want to stop and film it, but I couldn't figure out a way to get it in shot because of all of the plants and stuff, so alas, there is no good bridge footage. And on that note, I will stop doing this voiceover. What a letdown I am. Hi guys, this is just a wrap up of the Cotswolds ride I did feels like last weekend, but it wasn't because it was a Thursday. It was just the long weekend for the Jubilee here. You can see my Cotswolds climb stats. It was a relatively short ride because I wanted it to not be too long for all sorts of family reasons, and the 84 kilometres and a moving time just under 3 hours, which isn't bad for the elevation of 1,500 metres. Generally, I wasn't going out with the intention of blasting around as quick as I could. It was about enjoying what was on offer. But I was pretty happy with those results, and a weighted average power around 250 watts is normally mark of a decent ride for me. So this is the route I took. You can see in a little bit more detail that I bobble around the outside of the Cotswolds for a while, and then I go all along this ridge line, and the Cotswolds kind of run diagonally here and then go down, so I just go up and down all the hills around this area that I could fit in. There's the one I did as a dead end, and then going down into Winchcombe and back. I've put little screenshots of how I did on each climb in the video, so let me know if you like that. None of them were remarkable. I was pretty happy with the power I did up all of them, but versus the competition, bit crap. I like seeing these well-defined heart rate rises as I attack each of the climbs, which is pretty nice. The one thing I did want to tell you about, a boring little anecdote, is where I nearly died at the end of the ride, because I got a little bit cocky, sort of herring it down these climbs, and there's this one segment where I'd got up to about 35 miles an hour on a descent, and it comes around this little bend you can see on the map here. But if you look at my speed, yeah, speed's going up, temper the speed a little bit for the corner, and then suddenly I have to slam on the brakes. Because there was a gate, which I wasn't expecting, which is silly, because this is what the start of the road looks like. Gate. But I'll show you. It was at about this point on the road. I knew I was going down to the left, and I thought, well, I'll knock a little bit of the speed off as I come down. And as I say, doing 30 miles an hour around this corner, and then that's the gate. Right, okay, it's open for the Google Maps car, but it was not open for me. So yeah, it felt very silly. Anyway, that rambling anecdote aside, I hope you've enjoyed my Cotswolds Climbs video, guys. If you have any feedback about things you'd like me to include in future, not include in future, if you thought it was interesting, let me know. If you prefer that I just keep it to sort of up and down hills videos, I can do that too. That could have been 5 separate just up and down hill videos, which if you find more interesting, that's what I'll do instead, so let me know. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.